some of the main things that holds guys back with this is lacking immersion and accountability.
Yeah,
and that's what these weekends give you. You get the full immersion over the course of 3 days. You also get that necessary accountability, having someone by your side to push you into it, to hold you accountable over the weekend and then all the time after that as well. Because like I said to you, the boot camp is the start. The boot camp is a springboard to the rest of your life. The hard work begins after the boot camp, but that's why the way that I like to run things is you're in my life now and we're friends and we'll keep going together through life to make sure you get where you want to get to.
Yes, boys, how we doing? All right, so in this video, we are going to listen to a conversation that I had with Danny, okay? So Danny recently completed a 3-day UK boot camp with me. We had an unbelievable time together. He actually slept on that sofa right there because Kristian's all about the fucking value, man. Not only does this conversation showcase what it's actually like to work with me one-on-one, but me and Danny are also gonna cover the things that you actually need if you are serious about dominating Daygame. And if after listening to mine and Danny's conversation, you have been inspired to undergo your own personal renaissance and free yourself from all the bullshit, then you know what to do. Just drop me an email, ukdaygame@gmail.com. All the information that you need is on my website, www.kristiankasanova.com. Alright, like the video, do all the YouTube shit, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment if you can be asked, and let's get into it.
So I'm joined today with Danny from Sheffield, who recently completed a 3-day boot camp with me. So if you want to say hi to the people, Danny, introduce yourself and any other information that the people may seem relevant.
So I'm Danny, I'm from Sheffield. 30 years old now, so I'm becoming a mature man. I work for myself. I'm just a generally normal guy, to be honest. I like being social, making friends. I like to travel a lot, and just like all the normal stuff, really.
Mm-hmm. So tell us then about your boot camp experience from what you can remember, because I know it's a intense weekend and there's a lot of stuff going on, but tell us about what your weekend was like.
So it was really interesting. I think the morning of, I woke up really early, tried to get myself in, do the good habits of, went for a run, did like meditation, all that kind of jazz, and then on the train to Manchester, because we did it in Manchester. On the train to Manchester, I was absolutely shitting it, just like old school nerves of just having feeling sick in my stomach. And I was a bit on the way, I was massively self-doubting, 100%, just being I'm wasting Kristian's time here. And I was just in my head, I was just there's no way I can do this. I remember walking through Manchester because we met at, was it Cafe Nero?
Yes, the classic.
The classic. And I remember you being texting 7 minutes away, and I was like, shit, this is getting real. This is getting really real now. And it was just from the get-go, I think I was still trying to procrastinate by being can we ever walk first for half an hour around the park and chat? But deep down I know I was just just delaying the inevitable of me actually going and doing it. And then from the get-go, I was really nervous, and I think I remember we walked around for probably about 10-15 minutes. I think I dived into it a lot faster than I thought I would. And then we were in I can't remember where we were. It was quite an open space. And I think we just walked past a girl, and I think you were just there's your chance. And somehow I took it. She was really receptive, really sweet. It was very small conversation, but it was really nice. She was really friendly. We had a bit of a conversation, and I kind of just I probably rejected quite early because I was just this is overwhelming as. And it was nice. And obviously I remember walking to you and you being unbelievably elated for me. I think from just there, it kind of just progressed quite well. The whole experience it was so unusual because I think it as well, I think it was such a massive range of emotions doing it. Because there was definitely fear and anxiety to begin with, where it almost stopped me enjoying the process as much as probably what I wanted to. Because I think there was points where I think it was the second, I can't remember if it was the second day, where there was part of me where I was thinking for a good 5 minutes being I almost don't want to walk past someone who's hot, because I'm just I know I'm gonna have to do it. which kind of like stopped me enjoying the process a little bit. But yeah, it was an unbelievable weekend. It was definitely eye-opening, and yeah, and I think as well, like, cause obviously I stopped at yours on the Friday, and then I think it's Saturday. That's when I was on the train home, and I almost like processed the whole weekend, the 2 days, and that's when I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. Just because it's something like, obviously we spoke before, it's something that it's always been in my mind for like last stupid amount of years, and I think it was just almost like a sense of relief that I've actually gone and done it. So yeah, it's kind of thinking now, like it's kind of crazy thinking the whole weekend and stuff.
Yeah, because I remember you'd known about this for a long time. You'd wanted to do it for a long time. Like, I think so many guys out there are in that position where they know about it, they know all the theory, they've read the books, they've seen the videos, but they've still not actually done it. And now you're on the other side, having consumed a lot and now having done a lot. Like, how does life feel now that you've actually put yourself through the social fire?
Yeah, it's just like, it's very eye-opening. I think as well, like, I think getting into this, I think it's very easily done where you take like baby steps, which, you know, to a certain degree I do agree with. Like, I think it depends what level you're at. Like, for me, like, I've met a lot of people in my life, so I've always kind of had that social capability there. But I think for me, like, the biggest thing I said to you was the fact that I would just always struggle to be direct. Like, even like, you know, a girl could give me like the best signal, like the most obvious signals in the world, but I'd always just be, I don't know why, I think it was just so alien to me. And yeah, I think, I forgot my point now, but yeah. So like, I think getting into this, it's very easy to be like, oh, you know, take baby steps, where it's like walking down the street, like, you know, and don't get me wrong, like, if you're literally somebody who can't actually get out the door, then obviously going from like that to what we did this weekend will definitely be unbelievably overwhelming and probably like, you know, counterproductive, because it probably like almost shoot you back a few steps. But I think for me, like, I kind of done all those like baby steps, all that warming up of being like, you know, I could say loads of people, I can be like, happily ask somebody like, oh, where's so-and-so? Like, that shit never really bothered me. And I feel like so I think for me, like, I kind of done like all my stretching and all my warm-up for so many years, that actually doing this, like taking that step, it was just what I needed to do. I think it was like, I did everything prior in my life leading up to this. And I think it was just like, this is what I needed to do now.
That's really key, because like, for anybody even considering getting involved with this, you definitely 100% you need a base level of social competency. Like, you need to be able to actually have conversations in everyday life before you start cold approaching women for like romantic options. You have to have that base level of social skills, otherwise you're wasting your time and you're going to come across as really uncalibrated. But for you, and so many guys out there, you've got so much value within you, and Daygame is simply a means of delivering that value to the world. But I think a lot of people misinterpret. You have to have value to begin with in order to do this. So you have to have that social level. You don't have to be a social master, but you can't be a social misfit, you know?
No, that's what I agree. I think a lot of people get into this where it's thinking and don't get me wrong, like, to a certain degree, like, if you're like, anyone who dives into this, like, fair play to him, it is absolutely, it is terrifying. It's just, I think for a lot of people, probably someone like me, it's almost like, it's not the fact it's so scary, but it's just so alien. Like, I think it's almost like a pathway that I've never ever crossed. So me walking past an attractive girl, I'd almost like play the scenario out in my head and then overwhelm myself. And then it'd be like, I'd look back and like, oh, she's like 50 meters away. And I've almost like created this, like, you know, like the Secret Life of Walter Mitty kind of scenario in my head. And then I'm like, oh shit, and you feel guilty, and then you're like living almost like this fantasy life in your head, and you're just not doing it. So I think, yeah, for me, it was just, I think, yeah, it's good if you know, I do think you need a base level of, you know, social competency. But yeah, I mean, fair play to anyone who does this, but yeah, it's just like, I just think if you're like, probably, I think there'll be so many people out there like me who are absolutely fine, just like socially, like in the gym, just like, you know, nothing really, you know, some things will overwhelm me. And there'll be days where I just don't feel socially there. But But I think you get to a certain point where you think, I'm ready for this. And I think it's definitely hard to take it on your own, 100%. But yeah,
what difference did it make for you then to have someone such as myself going around with you, spending time around me, and also the people I introduced you to over the weekend? Like, what difference do you think that actually makes to guys to actually have that camaraderie around them?
Yeah. I think it's just like, firstly, it's probably more like the enjoyment side. Like, I feel like going out on your own for like 3-4 hours, like approaching and stuff. I think like, I mean, I tried it this weekend and I did like a few, but I was just almost like the enjoyment wasn't there as much as what it was like with a friend, like with you. And I think like early days, like I think for me, like I said to you, like my main goal is just like making it almost like an instinct to actually do this, like disregarding results. Like I think as well, I think that's why it's not good if you've never done this to like read into this thing where you like, you do this, like, you know, like a typical, like you stack, you get a hook, you close. And I feel like all that is so overwhelming. If you've never done that, like there's no point. It's almost like looking at a gym workout and being like, oh, I need to deadlift 200 kilos. It's like, oh no, actually just get the technique to begin with. And it's almost like that. So I think for me, like with like being you there, like having you there, I said to you, like, for me, like, if I could do one approach this weekend, like, I'll be happy. But I think for me, it was just good having you there, like, almost like bouncing off your personality and just, you know, having like that set time, set day where you're like, I want to take advantage of this. And, you know, and you very early on got me into the swing of things. So I think it was just like, you know, it was nice to have that initial push and stuff. Because I think on your own, you can definitely be like, you know, you'd be walking, and you think, oh, she's all right. And then you're like, you know what, next one. And then 30 minutes down the line, 40 minutes down the line, the anxiety is probably built up a bit where you just don't feel comfortable doing this anymore. And then you're almost like going, it's like that kind of like negative cycle, really. So I think it was like last year when I remember saying like, oh, if, you know, by the time I'm 30, I've never done this, I'm 100% going to like reach out. And then it obviously got to a point where I contacted you and I was just like, right, let's just do this. Let's just like give the payment, like just set it up straight away. And I was like, okay, this is happening now. Because it's so easy. It's so easy to procrastinate about doing it. 100%. It's so easy. It's just so easy to avoid doing this.
100%. I think some of the main things that holds guys back with this is lacking immersion and accountability. And that's what these weekends give you. You get the full immersion over the course of 3 days. And you also get that necessary accountability, having someone by your side to push you into it, to hold you accountable over the weekend and then all the time after that as well. Because like I said to you, the boot camp is the start. The boot camp is a springboard to the rest of your life. The hard work begins after the boot camp, but that's why the way that I like to run things is you're in my life now and we're friends and we'll keep going together through life to make sure you get where you want to get to. But I think an interesting thing as well is the payment side of things. I think when you pay for something and when you pay decent money for something, you really push yourself towards doing it because you're like, wait, I've paid for this, so I really want to get my money's worth, you know?
100%. And I think that's the biggest thing. So I think as well, like someone like you who's like so far into this, like obviously teaching it and stuff. I think like going around with someone like you, it's like, oh, this is the thing. Like I've done it before where I've gone around with somebody who's probably a bit like me, where it's like, oh, you like the idea of doing it. And then you kind of like walk around 2 hours and you both agree like, oh, we'll do it next time. And you just think, it gets to a point like this fantasy is never ever going to come true unless I actually do something about it. But yeah, I think like the main thing for me, for the reason for doing this weekend was just the immersion side. Because I think it's very easy to go out and maybe even like, you know, if you just do one approach and you can easily get like a negative reaction to that and then just kind of call it a day. And then that's you're basing your whole experience of this of one interaction. And I think like, you know, the minute you have like, I don't know how many technically approaches I did over the week, like, you know, say 30 or so. I think just having those 30 different approaches, like, yeah, someone negative, well, not negative. I think as well, like, I think like people be like, oh, I got rejected. It's like 99% of the time, like, it's really not bad. Like, even if the girl like kind of walks past and like, I think I had one girl was like, oh, I don't speak English. I was like, have a nice day. It literally, that just did not faze me in any way. So I think like, you know, you read online, it's like, oh, you know, I got rejected 10 times. It's like those rejections, a lot of the times are just so almost like heartwarming. Cause it's like a lot of girls like who reject me over the weekend were just like, oh, you know, I have a boyfriend, but thanks so much. And I'm like, yeah, that's absolutely fine. Like, no worries. So it's like you're going out, like, I think as well, it's very easy with this to become very outcome dependent, where you're like, I'm going in, if I don't get this girl's number, and I think, and I don't get me wrong, I think I've almost like swayed a little bit that way. Like over this weekend, I felt like because I'd done this boot camp, I was like, oh, you know, maybe I'm at the point where I can like learn how to do this, that, and the other. But I think I'm definitely still the phase where I'm just like, I need to like shotgun myself into these kind of approaches, disregarding like if the girl's like, no, don't speak English, blah, 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 anything like that. So yeah, like, you know, I think, yeah, like the whole basis for the weekend for me was the immersion side, where it's like you get all those experiences, so you can be like, oh, well, you know, like getting rejected those like 5, 6, 7 times. It doesn't really matter as a whole, because like over the 30 odd times that you do it, like you have some interactions that are just like amazing, where you think, God, this is crazy. Like, this is so easy.
Yeah, I remember you went from 0 to 100 really quickly, because I remember you were like, yeah, I just really like to be able to do one approach by the end of this weekend.
Yeah.
Like even the first day, you were getting solid numbers, girls who were like actively texting you, wanting to see you again. And that was after the first day, and it's like that was not in your reality before. But I'm so pleased you got to experience like the sort of how things actually occur. Like you can literally go up to a girl, have a conversation, then boom, you can easily get a date with that girl, which is mad. It's just, it reshapes your reality.
Yeah, it really does. And I think as well, I mean, I'm sure you'll probably ask me why I got into this. But I think for me, like, I've kind of always been like okay with girls and stuff. Like I've always, you know, like, I think a lot of like the girls I've been with over the years and stuff, a lot of them always like, you know, like clunkily fall into place, and they're always like, you know, half decent look at me, like yeah, but like I think like deep down, like I was always like, I almost like disregarding like looks, like, you know, you can get a good looking girl by being drunk on a night out and stuff, but for me, like I always wanted like deep down to have that kind of push myself out of my comfort zone for a girl, like even if she's like regarded as someone who's less attractive than I've been with somebody, I'd still much more appreciate that kind of like possible experience with that girl over someone I kind of just like fell into. But yeah, I think like the reason, again, I don't know if you could ask me this question, but the reason why I did get into this was just like when I was seeing girls, even like girls I just genuinely didn't care about, where deep down, like I just knew we weren't right for each other. And it used to, instead for me, I always struggled to feel like, okay, I would never end it. I'd almost like wait for it to end. I knew it was always going to come to an end, but I was always like, had that scarcity mindset. And then I'd almost become like, I really want that person back. I really want that girl back. And the reason why is because I just didn't know how to create the opportunities for myself. And I think, yeah, the whole reason for me doing this is just like realizing you can do it, you can create opportunity. You know, you can actually just go for what you want. You genuinely can do that. Like, yeah, it's scary, of course it is, but that's, you know, it makes it worthwhile. It's way more fulfilling.
Yeah, I remember when we were walking around together in Manchester and we were talking about that, and I was saying to you that, you know, even after the first few days, understanding that abundance mentality is not always having, but knowing you can have. And by practicing this skill set over the weekend together, you demonstrate to yourself that you can go out and you can have conversation with girls and you can cultivate abundance for yourself. And it means that you'll never feel like you're in a place of lack again, because you know, if your like relationships, your current relationships turn to dust, then you're gonna be fine and you can handle that.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. And it just as well, like when you do that, like you create, you know, you create more of a healthy relationship with the person you're seeing, because you're like, a lot of like the relationships I've had with the girls I've seen in the past were more just like, it was almost like me like bending over backwards to please them, because it's like, oh, like I didn't really have like, you know, I don't have any social media, I don't have like Tinder, I don't have any online dating. So like for me, like you know, if I didn't actually do this, and I really just, the girls that I'd ever see, like it was almost like, because, you know, working for yourself, I don't meet people through work, so it would never, I just never had any options. So yeah, I think like, you know, doing this, like it just creates, long term, it creates a lot more of a healthy relationship with the person you're seeing, because it's like, oh, this is coming more from like me wanting to be with that girl, rather than being like, I have nothing else, like this is, and you just like, I used to naturally, I don't know, it was weird, like whenever I see a girl like the first like month or so, it almost like, it'd be very healthy, and then like it'd slip and I'm like, I can feel myself getting a bit needy and I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this. So yeah, it would definitely, this definitely helps with that kind of mindset shift.
I agree. I think this industry gets a bad rap, and certainly I think there is a divide in this industry. You've got the pickup artists and you've got the seducers. Like the pickup artists, it's very much a case of they're faking their value, but the seducers, they have value to give to the world. And like you say, it's like, it's a case of when you're in that like scarce relationship, it's a case of, do I want her or do I just want someone? I think that's how most relationships are born. It's like, well, you'll do because I've got nothing else. But exactly. as you've discovered, having that abundance mentality now, it's going to cultivate healthy relationships in the long term, which I think society as a whole can benefit more from. There was just something that I wanted to ask you, because I'm quite curious. Like, if you were to do this weekend again, what would you do differently, if anything?
Ooh, it's hard question, because I think if I'm completely honest, I'd probably do it quite similar to what I did over the weekend. But I think I'd probably, because there was definitely times where I think it was like 2-3 hours in where I just felt so exhausted, and I think I'd probably just try and actually shotgun myself into these approaches, disregarding of how I felt. So I think as well, because I'm still like, I'd still class myself in like the very, very early days of this. Like, I still want for me to learn how to just take action. Like, almost like, we have these, I'm sure a lot of people do it. You walk past the girl and you think, oh, you start to overthink things. But I think like during the boot camp, there's a lot of times where we'd walk past one girl and I just have an instantaneous reaction of being like, oh, Kristian, like, hold my bag, give me a second.
I remember that, your catchphrase, 2 seconds. And I was like, I know what that means.
Yeah, and I think that's for me, like, I think that for me, that's my main goal at the moment. So I think, it can be very easy to come into this where you're like, oh, my main goal is to sleep with like 10 girls, get 20 numbers, do this, that, and the other. And for me, I'm like, I just don't really give a shit about that, if I'm completely honest. My main goal from this is just like, take that action. That's a bit my biggest goal. So at the moment, like, my goal's still there, because obviously, like, now I'll be doing it myself. So it's almost like starting a new journey. But obviously, this has definitely helped me. Like, it's leads me into this actual possibility that I can, that I have myself. But now for me, it is like, having just like walking past the girl and being like, just having that reaction of like not thinking, getting into the approach, stumbling over my words, getting nervous, like, who cares? Like, I don't really want, that doesn't really bother me at the moment. Because, it has like, I've surprised myself really, because I think even like when I stopped at yours again on Friday, like the morning after, it was funny because I was walking through Leeds and I saw some like decent girls and I was like, oh shit, I was just like, you know what, like, I'll just like give myself a morning off. And then I kind of like forgot about it. And then when I was actually, got back to not Sheffield, but my town, I was just walking through town, and I'll be honest with you, like, you can walk through town 1,000 times, like, you'll be baffled like by just the lack of even girls your own age. But I was walking and I saw an absolute stunner, and I remember just looking and being like, yeah, and I just went for it, and she was like well shot, and I was shocked because I was like, yeah, this never happens in like, my town. And she was really sweet about it, she was like, oh, I do have, but you could tell like she was so elated by it. And I remember just walking away and being like, oh my God, like that became like a reaction to seeing an attractive girl and go, like, I didn't have to overthink things. I just went for it. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, I found it really weird, like how it just ingrained in just like my everyday life. Like, obviously, don't get me wrong, like, it doesn't happen all the time where I'm going to be like, oh, like, hello, and like jumping out in front of everyone. But it almost like shocked me how just had this whole weekend, like, kind of, because I thought for me, like, it would never get to the point where it would be ingrained in like my everyday life. Like, I thought, and don't get me wrong, I think at the moment I still am trying to separate it a bit, because it can definitely get like, you can definitely, become, you can beat yourself up about this by being like, oh, I need to approach every single attractive girl, and it comes out exhausting if you're trying to work and stuff, and your mind's on it all the time, you just can't focus. So yeah, it was kind of, that was like the crazy experience that I had really.
And that wouldn't have happened prior to the boot camp.
Oh, never in a million years. Like, never in a million. Like, I'd have seen it. I probably wouldn't even like. I'd have just been like, I'd just in my head be like, oh, she's fit. and just carried on walking. I wouldn't even think of anything. But I think the thing is, I think as well, like, it's so easy to fantasize about these things, and like your fantasy and your reality is so different. Like, I'll be honest, like when I got into this, I did think, I thought I'd probably be better than what, like, you know, you can easily watch videos and be like, I'm better than that person. You can easily like, but when you're actually in that moment, it's so different. And you do definitely, as you get on, and you know, you mentioned like little things to me, like you mentioned like, oh, tweak this, tweak that, and it helped so much. But yeah, it's like, going back to, you know, approaching that girl and stuff, like, it was just like, my reaction wasn't thinking like, oh, she's fit. My reaction was like, I'll go. Yeah. So I think for me, I definitely still want to almost like draw it back a little bit, because I think as well, like from this weekend, like having gone out last weekend by myself, I almost like expected a bit too much from all this. And I think at the moment, like, I think I still want to be in that moment where I'm just like, oh, just go for it. Like, that's where I need to draw back the kind of the goal a little bit from this, and just accept that I'm a beginner. Like, I'm completely new to this.
Yeah, and you have to love that apprenticeship phase. That's the best period, because you have to just give yourself full permission to fuck up, be a little bit rusty, be a little bit clunky in your conversations, and it's fine. It's a rite of passage. Speaking of that, then the final thing that I wanted to ask you is, what advice would you give to guys who are thinking about doing a boot camp, who are thinking of getting started with this? What would be your best advice, seeing as though you've gone from that side to this side?
Yeah, right. Honestly, the best advice I can give anyone to do this would be like, stop watching and stop reading shit about this. Stop having like those days where you feel a bit shit and you think, oh, this fantasy, this lifestyle could be me, and you kind of live. It's so easy to live life on the sidelines nowadays, where I can live my life through your videos. And like, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like almost like a bit like Kristian, who's like chatting up this girl, and that. And it's so easy to like I said, live on the sidelines and just watch people play it. But for me, like, if you're genuinely serious about this right now, stop watching videos, stop listening to podcasts, and just like either two things: get in touch. First, I'd say get in touch with you, or secondly, set a date in the diary where you're actually going to go out and do this. If you go out and you think you have like a goal, don't have a goal of like, I'm going to chat with 5 girls. If you're like, it depends obviously what your level are. If you're like me, where you think you can do this and you are socially calibrated, I'd say go out and set yourself like set yourself a goal of just approaching one girl and being like direct with her. Just do that. You know, and if you do that, if you walk around for 2 hours and you don't do that, then just be like, okay, I do want to seek a bit of help. I'll go to Kristian. So it's just, you know, stop reading all this shit, stop living life through other people's, you know, eyes and stuff like that. Just like set a date to do this. Because it's so easy where you think, oh, you'll do this and you'll go to the shop or something, you'll see an attractive girl, then you don't do it. You're like, oh shit, I'll do it tomorrow. Or I'll do it on Sunday. And just like set yourself a day, just to immerse yourself in it. If you don't do it, which I don't, you know, respect for people who would, I think deep down I never thought I'd ever do it. So that's why I obviously reached out to you. So yeah, for me, it's like either like get in contact with yourself, forget about it, set that weekend with you, or set a date that you're actually going to go out and try this. Because I think as well, like, you know, a lot of people get into this thing, oh, you know, I don't want to like be a guy who's like running around for 5 hours. Like, I don't get me wrong, like I don't want to be like long term. I don't want to be that. But I think a lot of people are like, yeah, I just want to do this like my everyday life, where I see an attractive cashier. I see, but it's like, you don't do that, because it's not normal to you. So it's like, you know, people say, oh, you know, I just want this where I can walk into a coffee shop, seeing it. Like, you're not going to do that. Like, we all know, you know, even like now, like, for me, like, I'd be amazed if I could do that. So it's like, it's good to get that immersion in very early on, and then like keep immersing yourself in this. And over time, you know, you should feel more comfortable doing like those natural approaches.
Definitely, 100%. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, you need that immersion period. It's not going to be natural until you put in the repetition. That's just the reality of it. But yeah, no, solid. Any closing thoughts before we say au revoir?
Any closing thoughts? Just like, I think for people that think about this, just like question why you're actually doing it. Like, so I think I'll be honest, like there were definitely like the odd day where I think like every morning when I felt nervous, like I think it was Saturday morning and I was nervous going to Manchester with you. I had to like, you know, I was a bit nervous and I was like this, but then I was just like, you know what, why am I doing this, Danny? I was just thinking like, why am I actually doing this? And then I'd obviously talk to myself and just be like, this is the reason. Then it's like, yeah, fair. Because I think as well, like it's so easy to get caught up in all anxiety and stuff. And don't get me wrong, you're going to. Well, I think whenever you do that, just think like, why am I doing this? Like, why? Like, what's the alternative? Like for me, like, you know, they always say like, oh, you know, regrets a lot worse than rejection. Like it's so fucking true. Like I can't express this so much where like every single rejection I had, like that girl comes into my brain and goes out my brain so fast. But the girls where I didn't do it, they'll be in my fantasy world for like 4 days.
Yeah.
And it's just like, so it is rejection is a lot better than regret, like 100%.
Yeah, that feeling when you feel like you didn't show up today, when you feel when you feel like you bailed on yourself, that needs to be playing in your mind. When you think about bailing on yourself, you need to play that scenario in your mind, because you will feel worse if you let that opportunity slide by. But like we say, if you've not put the reps in, then you are going to be allowing opportunities to pass by. And we've only got so much time on this earth. Like, how many opportunities are you going to allow slip by? You know, you either do something about it or you're going to live your life in regret. And like, I don't know about you, but no one wants to be in that position when they get older.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, don't get me wrong, like obviously people listen to this, like don't beat yourself up by not doing it, because it's terrifying for like the everyday person. I feel like, you know, people talk about percentage of people that do this, but I'm pretty sure you'd be in the 1% category of people who do this. Like, none of my closest friends have ever done this in their life. So yeah, just like for anyone who's thinking about doing it, just literally set a date or get in touch with you, do either of those two things. And if you don't do either of those things, just forget about it. Like, it's fine. Like, if you don't want to do this, like, just don't do it. Like, you know, go back to your life. Like, if you're genuinely someone who's happy, just like getting, you know, it sounds offensive, but bottom of the barrel shit on Tinder. If you're happy with that, fair enough. Like, go for it. Like, for me, I knew deep down, I was like, I know I want more than that. The reason why I wouldn't take action was I'm scared. Like, it would just, you know, just be honest to yourself. Like, it's a scary thing, and that's absolutely fine. But just don't lie to yourself. If you genuinely want to do this, be like, oh no, fuck it. Like, I'll just like sit on Tinder, sit on like Plenty of Fish, whatever people use. You're just going to feel shit. Like, it's just going to cultivate into, not cultivate, it's going to, you know, it's going to build into anxiety and depression. Like, if you don't take action what you want in your life, it will slowly like creep onto you, like just depression, anxiety, all those things will creep on you. So yeah, just literally anyone who's listening, stop fucking like watching this shit. Stop, you know, binging like videos on YouTube, which is so easily done. Set a date, go out and do it. And if you don't do it, talk to you, speak to you. You'll just like, you know, you were very, you know, when we first spoke, you said very early on, like, you know, you're almost like, yeah, it's fine to be like scared, Danny. Like, that's absolutely normal. And it was almost like you could relate very well. So yeah, do those two things. And if you don't do those two things, just forget about it. Like, honestly, don't waste your time. Don't spend the next 2 years fantasizing about this world, because you'll very realize like your fantasy in real life is so different anyway. So you might even do this and think, you know what, it's probably not for me. I think for everybody, it probably is. I think doing all this kind of thing is, it's only going to benefit you, you know, not just for the female side, but like in so many different areas in your life. Like, I'll be honest, like, even though like since our weekend, like technically I think I've only done like 4 or so approaches, but like socially, I've had so many better conversations and I felt so much more comfortable in those. So it helps in so many different areas in your life that you don't realize. So yeah,
I say to people all the time, it really does go deeper than Daygame. You know, after being a magician for 10 plus years, I was like, yeah, mate, I'm confident. Doing this for 2 years, I'm like, life is just completely different now. So yeah, I think it's the best thing. I think it's the best thing that guys can do. But like you say, you really need to decide and then stick with your decision. And if you don't want to do it, it's fine. But you have to decide what you want to do. Don't be stuck in that mental limbo. Should I? Shouldn't I? You know, you're either a smoker or you're not a smoker. Decide what you're going to be, and then be that.
I completely agree. And just like the biggest thing out there is just like, just be honest to yourself. Like, I think for me, like, my honest was just like, yeah, I'm scared of doing it. Like, of course I am. Like, you know, I can do this, I can do that, but it's like, this scares me. Like, I think a lot of people, like, from the ego point of view, won't admit that, like, you know, you'll get a lot of people like, oh, you're fucking scared of talking to girls, and then they're just it's like, yeah. I mean, I'm scared going up to a stranger and admitting to a girl that I find attractive. Like, I was scared of that. Like, still now, like, it is definitely overwhelming for me. So I think, yeah, just like be honest to yourself, and and if you're like, oh, I can't be asked to fucking do this, but like if you're doing that from a point of fear, then you'd be lying to yourself by not doing this. So I think that's probably the biggest take from it, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's quality. Yeah, no, thank you for giving your time for this interview, man. It's been really insightful. I know a lot of people who are listening to this are going to take a lot from it, and hopefully expose people into thinking differently about their life. But no, I just want to say to you, just well done. I mean, we're mates now. You've stayed at mine quite a few times now. Yeah, it's all right. We don't do anything weird. He sleeps on the sofa. It's one of those strange marriages. We see each other like twice a year, and I've kept the dogs. But yeah, no, it's I commend anybody who does this. And you're in my life now, so I'll be checking in with you on a weekly basis to make sure you're maintaining momentum. I've introduced you to my guys in Leeds as well, so you've got a network around you now, which is key, of cool fucking people who are all on the same wavelength, doing the same stuff. And I'm excited to see where you're gonna go. So yeah, just thank you for spending your time with me, with us. And yeah, we'll have our call on Thursday, so I can check in with you before your weekend and stuff, man.
Yeah, no, yeah, like I said, I mean, massive thanks to you as well, man. Like this, again, it runs so much deeper than just like attracting girls. Like it's so helpful in so many ways. Like it's almost like I know you probably class yourself as like a dating coach, but it's almost like a life coach as well. And it's fine to like seek help. Like I think in other areas of my life, like I was happy. Like this is just an area where I just genuinely wanted a bit of help. So yeah, massive thanks to you. You're doing so much help for people out there. So yeah, just keep on doing it, man. Like I'm excited for the future, and it'll be cool to like link up and stuff, and stuff like that, really, man.
Nice one, Donny. Well, listen, man, you take it easy, and we'll speak soon.
Yeah, you too, man. Take care, pal.
Right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to see if this is going to save. I assume I'm just going to stop the recording and it's going to save. I'm going to Google how to save a Zoom meeting, because if this gets deleted, that would be an absolute waste of time. How to save Zoom. If it's the same as Skype, it's literally a case of I press stop